As a preface, this video will not be about Donald Trump's claims about women, his tax records, immigration, or partisan arguments. Global warming is a societal problem, not a political one. It is a problem that is non-discriminatory about who it affects, presuming you live on planet Earth, of course. This video is an attempt to foreshadow the environmental effects that could be perpetuated by a Donald Trump presidency. As many of you probably know, the effects of climate change can be seen today. To name a few: increased sea level due to ice melting at the polar ice caps. Permafrost is melting. This is leading to Siberian permafrost releasing ancient diseases that were previously frozen, which has killed thousands of caribou to date. Mountain glaciers are melting. Sea level and temperature increases are threatening the health of coral reefs off the coast of Australia. Heat displacement in the ocean is being affected by Arctic ice melting. Heavier rainfalls increasing flooding in low-lying regions. Conversely, extreme drought is increasing. Crops are withering due to increased temperatures. Decreased crop productivity leads to food scarcity across the world. Ecosystem characteristics are changing. Hurricanes have increased in both frequency and strength. Seawater is becoming more acidic. Increased temperatures are driving an unprecedented amount of carbon out of carbon storage in soil, an estimated 55 trillion kilotons more than expected. In order to protect the Earth for future generations to come, drastic measures must be taken immediately in governments across the world. Currently in the United States, the EPA is in charge of a majority of the legislation put in place to curb the negative effects of climate change. In addition to writing regulations, some of the EPA's responsibilities include enforcing environmental laws to protect human health, such as mercury, toxicity, toxic chemical disposal, etc., etc. Provide information to educate the public on ways to conserve the environment around them. Enforce environmental legislation accordingly using legal tactics. And to work with foreign governments to protect the greater good of the global environment. President Barack Obama has been a proponent in the fight against climate change and has increased funding to the EPA during his 8 years in office.
Decades of carefully reviewed science tells us our planet is changing in ways that will have profound impacts on the world we leave our children. Already we know that the 12 warmest years in recorded history have all come in the last 15, and that last year was the warmest in American history. And while we know no single weather event is caused solely by climate change, we also know that in a world that's getting warmer than it used to be, all weather events are affected by it. More extreme droughts, floods, wildfires, and hurricanes.
Surely the next president would follow suit in the fight against climate change.
Well, I'm not a big believer in man-made climate change.
Politics aside, the American people have democratically elected a man who not only denies the cause of climate change, but a man who thinks global warming is a lie perpetuated by the Chinese to make American manufacturing uncompetitive. Only compounding this issue, Donald Trump's cabinet choices have been making the scientific community very nervous about the future of American environmental policy. All of the individuals that he is considering to administer the EPA are climate change deniers to some extent.
In case we have forgotten, because we keep hearing that 2014 has been the warmest year on record, I asked the chair, you know what this is? It's a snowball, and that's just from outside here. So it's very, very cold out, very unseasonal. So here, Mr. President, catch this.
Additionally, a Republican-controlled House and Senate would only streamline the cabinet recommendations Trump has conceived. A common misconception regarding green technology is that it will come at an increased cost to the consumer. While there may be a heavy initial cost to build windmills, hydroelectric dams, so on and so forth, the long-term costs of renewable energy are substantially lower than that of conventional energy methods. For example, Google plans to be run entirely by renewable energy by the year 2017 through sources like wind power. So even if Donald Trump is correct in stating that climate change is a hoax, the Chinese would be the winners due to the lower long-term energy costs associated with renewable energy. So what exactly can you do? I mean, to face the matter, we're not lobbyists, we're not politicians, we're not some oil monarchs in some far-off country. It may seem like we don't have a lot of influence on our politicians. However, we can do it the old-fashioned way. While it does seem a bit old-fashioned, look up your congressman or woman's voting record regarding environmental legislation and write or call them to express your concerns. Although they might not be overly concerned about one constituent's thoughts towards their vote, more people contacting them would inevitably encourage them to take action, or possibly even change their stance. This makes career politicians very nervous about being reelected. In future elections, research politicians' stances on climate change and take a look at the source of their present and past lobbying regarding their legislation. Researching your politicians and voicing your opinions is not just limited to congressmen. In fact, voice your opinions regarding environmental policy to Donald Trump. Perhaps, with an increased amount of concern from the general public, he too would change his stance.